Welcome to the Pirate Broadcast, where we interview interesting people doing interesting things, where you can expand your connections, your community. Kindness is cool and smiles are free. And let's get this party started. It's a beautiful day for the Pirate Broadcast. We got another pirate in the house. Christoph, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Good morning. Hey, thanks for having me. Good to see you.
Likewise. Missed you here when you were in Phoenix last week and traveling around. And I know it's not the same as normal. However, hopefully you made it back okay and everything's settling in for another week of fun and adventure.
Everything is settling in for sitting in the same chair. Every once in a while I stand up on my wonderful stand-up desk. Yeah, sorry I missed you, but my two kids, I mean, my wife, they got my schedule under control. I'm just along.
You're just going along for the ride.
Yeah, I just buy the tickets.
Yeah. You know, I want to talk a little bit because you authored a book called Going Live, and we have a similar passion about, this whole podcasting, live streaming type of activity that a lot of business owners haven't really, I don't think, really understood what it could do for their business in their activity on social media. So I want to dive into a little bit of that. But how did you get involved and get started in live and podcasting and media in general? What's your backstory a little bit?
Good question. So first of all, they were very separate. And, like 6 years ago, I started podcasting. About 3 years ago, I started doing it more formally. And then probably 6 or 7 years ago, whenever Periscope and Meerkat came about, I started doing live streaming, but they were separate. I did not think of them as one. And, but they were one channel, and that's kind of how it goes at that time. And of course, today, you're live here on LinkedIn, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Now it's much easier, right? We use one tool. You use StreamYard. I use Restream. There's others. Yeah. And basically, at some point, I was promoting not my current book, but my last book, Content Performance Culture, on Jason Fall's podcast. And he goes, "We're live using Switcher Studio and blah, blah." I'm like, what? That's how easy it is? And then he published his podcast like literally an hour later. And so anyway, I started using Switcher, and then I started realizing, hey, I can also stream to multiple channels with Restream. So I combined them, and then I take the audio and I put it into my podcast. So I virtually do no podcasts that are not live streamed. And the reason is because you get so much more reach, and it's unbelievable, and especially when you first, and my podcast has been humming along now. So it's not doing too bad. But it wouldn't be doing nearly as good without all the live stream, right? Live stream views. So I kind of started combining them, but that's kind of how it all came together. So Jason says, well, you still have to do all the work. And it's true, I did. But he kind of gave me the idea, partially because he was doing what he was doing. And then, I started slowly combining the two. And it's been a fantastic ride. It's been great. And, first of all, it's nice to reach more people. But when you do a live stream, you know what else happens? You take away the power of the edit. So when I used to be a writer, people would I'm still a writer, but when like 10 years ago, when there was no live streaming, people would over edit everything.
Yeah.
It was crazy. Like, why did we need that change other than that you're the boss? There's no reason. And on a live stream, once it's said, it's said. And if you can edit it for the podcast, but let's say I got 200 views on a podcast, but I have 27,000 or whatever. I know that's not you're not going to get a 27,000 out of the gate, but at some point you might.
Yeah.
Who cares if I change it? You already said it to the majority of the audience.
Yeah. It's really fascinating to me too, because I started out in podcasting like yourself. And I produced a lot of shows for a lot of different people, edited a lot of audio. And, it's really one of those things that when I started live streaming, because I used to live stream high school varsity sports. Mm-hmm. I used to use Spreaker, the live streaming application, and live stream. I'd hire producers at the radio show, the radio program, and have them broadcast into Spreaker live, and then rebroadcasted it out to the AM Tower in Houston. And it was really, that's how I got started. And it was just live streaming audio initially for radio broadcasting. And I thought, I'm just going to do this for live streaming. And I got on Blab years ago, and I would take the audio and then strip it out and do exactly what you're talking about, create the podcast from the video, and just strip it out and add it to there and process it, and it was done. And that whole system, that whole process just allowed a lot more content to be created quickly and effectively. So, and that's what I'm doing with the Pirate Syndicate now, is I'm doing that for business owners all over the country. So it's pretty cool.
And there's no reason not to do it. And what's interesting too, I wouldn't consider myself a live streamer when you just said sports. So because of COVID, right? Like they wouldn't allow as many fans to the kids' basketball games. So one of the moms said, "Oh, we'll just live stream it." And she was going to do it just with her phone. And I said, no, I'll do it. I'll take care of it. And I did multi-camera setup with switcher, one camera on each end, one under the basket. And then I'm sitting there with my iPad and I'm producing it, right, with the score. Uh-huh. And it was funny because, first of all, I learned a lot, and people were like, "Thank you so much." I'm like, "Oh, no worries. It's awesome. I'm learning something too." And there was a scoreboard. And every once in a while, if I didn't make it, my wife would do it, but she didn't do switcher. She just did her phone. Uh-huh. And you could tell people totally got used to the scoreboard. They were like, "What's the score? What's the score?" But it's like, it's amazing how far technology has come and what you can do, and even like the streaming quality. I mean, these things, people told me they would watch it on their TV at home. Look great. And I'm streaming over data.
That's insane. That is it. That is insane. And the reality, we're living in the most amazing time for content creators and people that want to produce content. And it's interesting to me to think how people are approaching it, and businesses are still holding back. There's still a huge opportunity. Think of all of the business owners right now that are unable to go to the conferences, go out networking, go to the expos or any kind of events and activities, when in fact they could produce their own show with business owners and their vendors and their contractors and everybody involved in their business to highlight some of the things that are going on in their business right now. Because, business hasn't shut down. I mean, it's evolved and it's changing, and it's going to continue to change. However, live streaming right now has opened the gates and the floodgates on content creation that people can actually build authority with. And I see it all the time, and you probably see it the same way I do, is that this content and this creative process is just continuing to evolve. And, like Switcher and being able to do multiple cameras and all of the, doing live stream and live events together will be a thing I think that people will start producing a lot more of. So is that your experience? And what do you see in the roadmap?
You were breaking up there just a little bit. First of all, before I just saw here, Kate saying hello. Hey, Kate, good morning. I really appreciate it. Hyatt, I guess that's how you say it. I'm not
Hyatt
sure.
Ives in Houston, yes.
Hyatt Ives, awesome.
Darlene in Florida. So morning from Twitch TV. Awesome. That's fantastic.
Awesome. So you're also streaming to Twitch. I didn't realize that. Awesome. Good stuff.
Yeah.
So I am seeing a trend that, first of all, it's not just me. The Content Marketing Institute, actually, in their annual research, they already found that too, that more brands are doing live streams. Now, what's interesting about saying it like that includes a lot. So a webinar, if it's live, technically that's a live stream, right? Yeah. This is a live stream. Showing some function or equipment is a live stream. I'll give you an example. I have a robot vacuum cleaner, and I'm pretty active on Amazon Live every day. This is why I was a couple minutes late. I had to go turn it off because I had the camera on it. So I put the camera on the vacuum cleaner, and the vacuum cleaner just drives around the house, and it has 10,000 views a day, roughly. So people watch it, And so my point is, so I make the affiliate commission on that, right? and Clubhouse. Howard, that's a good point. Well, I can
Yeah.
get to that in a minute. So
We'll get to that.
So it just drives around the house, and I make the commission fees, and it's kind of fun because I'm testing new equipment and whatever.
Uh-huh.
Why can't the vacuum cleaner companies make those videos? Seriously, like they have vacuum cleaners, so no reason they can't do it. So there's all kinds of potential. The other thing I do is I live stream myself working. Not right now because we're live here and there's really too much going on. But I'm working, or I'm editing a podcast. I'm live streaming it. Like if you offer podcast software, you can just live stream somebody working. Who cares? It's not private. So there's all these different ideas. Typically, what I'm currently talking about mostly is how do I get more out of my podcast? Because I see a lot of companies jumping in, which I think is great. But we saw that before, right, Russ? When it came to blogging, people started blogging and then they did it one time. And then they stopped, and then they didn't do it again. And they're like, oh, blogging doesn't work. Blogging works if you do it right. Same with podcasting. The average number when people stop podcasting is after 7 episodes. Yeah. There is no way to build your podcast channel in 7 episodes. No way. Impossible.
Yeah. And pod fade is a real thing. And I've seen it over and over and over again. And, producing shows and podcasts for other people, it's like nobody's watching, nobody's listening. Well, not yet. It's like learning how to play the piano and then you play it 7 times and nobody buys your album. It's like it's a long game. It's a long game, and it takes effort. And I think a lot of people, there's no way around not doing the work. Content creation is not necessarily for the faint of heart. So it's really a long game that we have to think about.
It's true. But, the thing is, once you kind of get into a rhythm and you get into what you're comfortable with, it does become easier. Now, I'll be quite honest, going live, it's a lot more energy than just recording a podcast. So I actually did a podcast the other day for my travel show, which I do very rarely. And I was just recording the audio. It was like vacation because, I wasn't on camera. I didn't have a light in my face and I didn't have to worry about a zit, all those things. So it is easier. But, Howard said, and then there's Clubhouse, and I'll give you my opinion on Clubhouse. Clubhouse, I am totally ignoring right now. And here's the reason why. Not saying it's not going to work for some people, but I'm on the Amazon bandwagon. I'm on the LinkedIn bandwagon, and I'm riding those horses hard, and so I can't focus everywhere. So you have to kind of pick and choose your battles where you go. But, so that's kind of my approach.
So I want to talk about that a little bit because I know a couple of other people that are on Amazon Live, and I haven't applied yet, or I may have applied, and I don't think I had enough Twitter followers, or I don't know, I didn't meet the criteria that they were looking for. And so I should probably apply again because there's a lot of gear that I have here in the studio that, I could talk about and share. I'm on this mission to go through. I got these, I got this, tripod stand and phone stands that I use for live streaming and doing shows and content creation, all these things. And I'm always on the lookout for these things and talking about them. And I'm thinking it would be really, really great to be able to get the affiliate commission on some of this stuff. And so it's probably an easy access to another revenue stream if you're able to get on there. So maybe you could, if people don't know about what it takes to get on there, maybe you could talk a little bit about that, Christoph, and let people know what it's about. Yeah.
So basically Amazon Live, it's supposed to be about shopping, but it's not defined what that actually means, right? So sometimes people think that means an infomercial. That's one way to do it. Utechpia he works out. That's all he does. He works out and you can see his equipment and you can buy the equipment, which is also a really fun strategy because, he gets his workout and makes some money, builds the audience. I show my vacuum cleaner. I also, maybe a little bit more on topic, I also live stream my podcast. So if you are my podcast, if this was my show, we would literally just do the same thing we're doing now, except below there would be products. So the products might be this microphone, the chair, anything you have, whatever it
Uh-huh.
might be. And all those things would be below. We might mention them when it's relevant, but we don't mention them just to mention them. And then people click. So that's how I do it. Another show I was on with Karen Quick the other day, she has segments. So she has 4 segments. She talks to me, then she talks about a product and she shows it. She goes, look, I use this mic and blah, 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 blah. And then she talks to me and then she talks about a product. And she does that 4 times. So there's different ways to do it. Now, what's interesting about your comment, you didn't get in. So people ask me, how did you get approved? And I said, I don't know. Like, I don't know why I'm even in there. So I think so here's the reason, short-term memory here. I didn't apply anytime recently. I applied years and years and years ago when Amazon rolled out their influencer program. So my philosophy is every time something new rolls out, I apply or I get in.
Yeah.
I did nothing with Amazon influencer, nothing. But now they rolled over influencer into Amazon Live. So I'm already in. So when people say, how much work was it to apply? I'm like, I don't know. It's like 5 years ago.
It's been long enough. I don't recall. That's fantastic. I love it. And, a lot of people don't understand also that Amazon owns Twitch as well. So
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
I did stream to Twitch a little bit ago, and I kind of stopped doing it just because I changed my plan with Restream. But I think if you want to and can, go everywhere you can, especially when it's the same program. Why not?
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about growing a podcast. Let's go back to that topic because that's one of the topics that people ask me a lot about. Well, how do I actually grow my audience? How do I grow my numbers? And I kind of take a little different approach to it. The Pirate Syndicate produces shows for other people. And what I always tell my clients is that you don't need to talk to 1,000 people. You just need to talk to the 10 of your ideal clients. You need to have the right conversations with the right people at the right time. And a lot of numbers may not necessarily, it gives you authority, it gives you some visibility across multiple networks, but it may not necessarily a like is not necessarily going to benefit your business. So I wanted to kind of get your thoughts on that and expand on that topic a little bit more for people that are thinking about podcasting.
It's a great question and a fun topic, quite frankly. So the answer is it depends on your industry, right? So the old, I remember what their name is now, old Ben Smith has a site for like folklore dancers and singers and musicians. And I said, Ben, how many people do that in the North America? He said maybe 50,000, maybe. And so my point is that's a relatively limited audience, right? So if you're selling something, if you're selling some big piece of equipment, machinery or whatever, like there's not that many buyers, right? Like I'm not your audience. So it depends on what your audience is, how big they are. Now the trick is, it is a little bit of a numbers game. So I'll give you an example. So I worked with a hospital in Dallas on an OB campaign. So probably the most local healthcare thing, right? Other than maybe emergency medicine or whatever. But I'm not going to fly to Dallas to have our kid, right? I mean, I'm going to go to my local doc. So they had an article that took off globally and the numbers went just through the roof. And a doctor, I think from Salt Lake City at a conference said, yeah, great. But why do I care? It's local. And I said, here's why you care. Because when global numbers go up, I'm not saying you should make global a goal, but when that happens, the local numbers go up too. So while you certainly are getting a ton of traffic from people that will never, ever have their baby in Dallas, unless they're traveling in Dallas by mistake or whatever.
At the time.
It still correlates, so it's just something to think about. Like, there is a mix. There's not necessarily a right or wrong answer. And the other thing is, especially in B2B, I hate to say it, guys, the numbers are small. I just read a study the other day. The average blog in B2B has 282 organic visits per month. That is crazily low.
Yeah.
I mean, but that's the industry average. So if you're over 282, you should be happy. If you're under, you got some work to do to be average, but it's still not horrible. So we have to keep the numbers in mind. Who are we reaching? What are we actually doing? Again, if it's something very consumer driven, that there's a lot of people, there should be more people. But if I'm selling something that very specific people only want, you're not going to get millions of views. I mean, I don't know why people like to be unrealistic.
Well, I think and what I tell people is, if you're only looking at the numbers, you're talking to the ego. If you're looking at the conversations, you're talking to the business. Mm-hmm. And I think that rules, whether it's consumer or business to business, it's all relative. And how many conversations can we have? How many transactions, how many conversions do we need in order to sustain our business? And I think it's unrealistic for a podcaster to get frustrated after 7 podcasts and say, I'm not next, I'm not in the top 100 podcasts of the world. And millions of people aren't listening to me already. And it's just, it's like practice. It's like instruments. You learn how to play. The more you practice, the better you get. The better you get, the more people want to listen. And that's the same thing with podcasting and live streaming and content creation and everything else. And it's a craft. It's a process. So just be patient with yourself and keep practicing, because it makes a difference. It makes an impact. And everybody has a gift and a message. And like yourself, you've been doing this for a while and you're figuring out a few things, and you accelerate and you help a lot more people. And next thing you know, there's people that want to work with you and say, "Hey, Christoph, what can we do to create a show together?" And then all of a sudden you're doing more things, and it just grows, and it's magic to watch for me anyway. So Howard Kaufman talked about Clubhouse. What are your thoughts on Clubhouse?
So I'm not focusing any time on it, and I think that's a very unpopular opinion, it seems. But here's the thing. First of all, I'm trying to get the most out of my content as possible. Mm-hmm. So, and here's what that means. I use it in as many channels as possible for as long as I can. And Clubhouse doesn't currently fit any of those things. And look at this. Russ, we're having a good conversation. I like to think so on here. And we're not on Clubhouse, and we're going everywhere, even channels I didn't know about, which is awesome. So, Clubhouse, it's just like, it's a room of people. Then you have to work on building another network. So it's the same problem that we have on podcast channels. So it's all about building new networks, and it's so hard to do, right? So right now, my opinion is Twitter Spaces is rolling out. So if the audio trend will pick up, and if I'm actually hopping on that bandwagon, I'm much more likely to do Twitter Spaces, because I already have an audience on Twitter. I already have a community. So I'm not going to build a whole new community. And by the way, most of the people I'm connecting with on Clubhouse, I'm already connected with everywhere else. Like, why do we need one more app? Guys, like, meet me over here. Like, we're already, it's like we're meeting over here. Hey, let's pack up, get on the bus. The toilet on the bus isn't working, but we have to drive 4 hours to go to a new restaurant just because it's in the news. Do you know what I mean? It's just
yeah. Well, I remember the same effect, and it's unique, and it's fresh, and so everybody's going in there, and it's really kind of this effect of it's very conversational, and it reminds me of Blab. And I don't know if you were on Blab in the early days. I was on there all the time, and it's people coming in, people leaving. It's like this open networking event.
Yep.
And it was really kind of addicting, and you could spend hours and not just recognize it, just be going away. And right now at this point in time, I have things I have to accomplish for, client work and efforts and life and everything that's going on. And for me to get lost in 4 hours of Clubhouse is really, like you said, it's, you have to watch what you do with your time and how you spend your efforts and where you grow your audience.
And
although I have to say, I have met a few new people on Clubhouse that are not in the network, but.
Yeah. And the other thing on Clubhouse too is, so on podcasts, I'm listening to podcasts all day, depending what I'm doing, right? So earlier I did some writing, so I turned it all off. But then I did some keyword research, and I can listen to podcasts just fine when I do keyword research. So I turned them on, and then I picked it up again later. And then you and I came on, and I turned it all off. And you can't do that on Clubhouse because it's right then and there, right? Like it's kind of like, let's meet at the water cooler all day, and then we get no work done.
Yeah. Darlene says Silver Fox Talks, double stream support, pirate broadcast. Fantastic. Oh. And Bob, coffee in the morning. Good morning, young man. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate you. And Hyatt says hi to Howard. The pirate community is amazing, Christoph, and I just love it. Start more conversations, meet more people. Love it. And keep it simple, he says. The thing that I really appreciate about the content creation process, and especially the journey that I've had with, hundreds of episodes of the pirate broadcast, is I get to have interesting conversations every single day. Different people, expanding the communications, and a lot of people get to meet people that they wouldn't normally meet because I bring them into the session and record this live and have the conversation, and then it goes out to the podcast and I share it again and create some social. So I hope your experience was comfortable getting on and getting involved and connecting. So it's probably a process that a lot of people could adapt to their own platform.
5 stars, 5 stars for sure. Also 5 stars for our haircuts today. Our hairs are in
hair-free, our hair-free, carefree life.
Everything went well. Really appreciate you making the time so bright and early. I know that's your usual time, but still bright and early, certainly.
Yeah. So any life skills or tips you can share with people about thinking, the ones that are thinking about going live stream or podcasting or content creation? You've got an abundance of information and experience. So I'd love to be able to have you share that with the community here.
I think the biggest thing is just get started. You don't need a fancy mic. You don't need a fancy chair. You don't need a Washington football head, especially if you're not a fan of Washington. But my point is, you just have to go. When I first started, I had my iPhone, the iPhone 6. Seriously, guys. So it's something to think about is just get started. Then think of it as a conversation. Marcus Sheridan talks about that in the visual sale quite a bit. And it makes it so much easier. Russ, I know we got, who knows how many people watching, but just based on the comments, it looks like a bunch. And but I don't think of it as a TV production. I think of it as I'm having a conversation with you, right? So think of it as a conversation. Don't think of it like you have to be perfect. I stumble all the time. Sometimes I forget what I say. Whatever. Like, roll with it. Just kind of go with the punches. There was a show I did the other day, and my guest, I completely lost his video. We don't know why, but we're in the middle of the show, So you know what I did? I just put myself full screen with a logo, and I put his name on the top. I said, voice off, Ryan Carruthers. And we still continued. Just roll with it. Like, why would we have to cancel? We're still talking, Like, you just can't see them, and we're just talking anyways. So it's fine. But just roll with the punches. I think that's and know your options.
That's great advice, Christoph. It's a pleasure. I'm glad that we got to finally connect and catch up. And I know that we'll probably have future conversations taking place as this whole thing evolves, because I think we're just on the tip of the iceberg of this live stream community. And content creation is still evolving and expanding. And there's so many great things that are going on. So, Michael Hubicki, great convo. He has a great show called The Thriving Mayor, and he actually helps people in new mayors actually map their road out, or map their vision and their execution out in the mayor's seat. And Darlene has a show. Thanks, Russ, for the great convo. Angie, an awesome pirate in from Twitter or Periscope. Have a great day, pirates. Thank you so much. And Christoph, again, thank you so much for being here. And how do you like people to connect with you and follow you and engage with you?
Yeah,
How
thanks
can
for
they
having
track
me.
you down?
Really appreciate you making the time and the great experience. AuthenticStorytelling.net works. If you Google my name, super easy to find, honestly, Christoph Trappe. You can see the spelling right there in the center. See Trappe on Twitter, LinkedIn. If you're going to connect with me on LinkedIn, make sure you tell me you heard me on Russ's show. So, I don't think you're some crazy, spammy salesperson who wants to help me with all of my goals. No offense to salespeople, but they don't know my goals unless they know me.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.
Thank you.
And everyone, thank you so much for being here on the Pirate Broadcast. If you want a show or you want to experience something much like this, the Pirate Syndicate helps business owners and speakers, authors, coaches experience to be seen, be heard, and be talked about. So you can go over there and find out more. And also, we're here every day to make sure that you have a little bit of information, inspiration, and motivation. So, because kindness is cool and smiles are free. And I want you to enjoy your day. Christoph, take care.
Have a good one.
Thank you for joining the Pirate Broadcast. If you found this content valuable, please like, comment, and share it across your social media channels. I would love the opportunity to help others grow in their business. The Pirate Syndicate is a platform where you show up, we produce the show. It's that easy. If you want to be seen, be heard, and be talked about, join the Pirate